Greetings, everyone. Now we're here in Washington, D.C. And here with us, David Plaster is the American veteran and the one who is a big supporter of Ukrainian people. Here's now, it's the 4th anniversary of the full-scale invasion of Russia to Ukraine, and actually 12 years of the entire war. And David Plaster is actually the one who supported Ukraine since 2014, and I know you started even living in Ukraine since 2012. So we are very pleased to talk to you, and maybe we can start from the question is that what exactly, like, how is that happen that, you started to support Ukraine, right? And what make you to make this commitment to support Ukrainian people?
Well, I have some Ukrainian ancestry, though I never really grew up with Ukrainian traditions or understanding. It was my great-grandmother that came from a place that's called Stanislava. But while some Ukrainians like to believe that's the reason why I support, I feel it's more because it's the most American thing I could do. Our country will have a 250-year anniversary soon. And over 250 years ago, we made a decision to be an independent free nation. And if it was not for foreign military assistance, foreign military leaders that came over, who mostly gave education, some blood, not as much as we have with the Foreign Legions coming over, but we had foreign fighters, and a lot of treasure, a lot of support. So they invested in our freedom. And I saw a pattern emerge ever since Reagan left the presidency, that every president afterwards had said that Russia is not our enemy. And every time an American president said Russia is not our enemy, Russia did what? It got bigger. And when President Obama said that at the debate with Romney, that Russia is not our enemy, I understood that something was going to happen. So I had a choice to make: finish my military career, or do something about it. So I left in 2012, the military, and I joined. I came to Ukraine to live, and I enjoy football. I used to play soccer when I was younger, and I really loved it. So, and of course, you can't fall in love with Ukrainian people. They're just so welcoming and warm. And I'm from the Midwest. A lot of people call it the flyover state, but we're very much like Ukrainians. We're very warm, good Christian people who believe in doing the right thing. And when you say something, you do it. So I fell in love with that, and I felt kind of very much at home from the moment I got off the plane in Juliana in Kyiv. And today I call Borshchivka my home. I'm very proud to say that. The people are wonderful. It's very green and clean, despite the reputation that people might think about it. But that's fine with me. They can live somewhere else. So when you saw all these things go on, and before even Maidan, I traveled the entire country. I was in Donetsk, I was in Luhansk, I was in Crimea in 12 and 13 and even 14 before the referendum. I couldn't help but support the people. I understood what was going to happen. I've been speaking Russian since I was a teenager. I taught myself, and I would read Svoboda and the microfilms and the Ukraine Weekly, and I would get this information. It was a great way to hear about what was going on in Ukraine, understand that. And I wanted to kind of connect more with where my ancestors came from and understand that. And I understood that Russia was eventually going to invade Ukraine. It was a matter of time. Russia is very weak. It doesn't want people to know that, but it is very weak, and that's why it acts like it's so strong. And Ukraine is, 10% of the world's black earth, right? So it just makes sense to come out and take it. And Crimea was logical for a warm port. Yes, they had Sevastopol, but, the Russians, they're very greedy. So when you look at all these geopolitical factors, and you also see that experts are saying, it'll never happen, it makes you believe more. There's actually a bit of a kind of a joke about people that are really big experts on things typically get it wrong the worst because they get too tunneled focused on that. And we just lived in this cloud that it was never going to happen. And it was really funny to talk to Ukrainians when I said, what are you going to do when the Russians invade? And they go, what? Like, shusha? Like, what? I don't, that's not going to happen. Like, when I said, that's what I see, and I explained why, and they go, you're not Ukrainian, you don't know anything. So when Maidan happened, exactly as I predicted, and Crimea and Donbass happened exactly as I predicted, because I was going all over the country, and I was seeing the propaganda from one part of the country to another, pitting people against each other. People who on Vyshyvanka Day, maybe some people wear less Vyshyvankas, but if you ask them who you are, proudly in Russian or Ukrainian, they would say, I'm Ukrainian. So it wasn't ever about language. And but once you know that something's going to happen, so you can do something about it, to run away from that that'd be the hardest thing I'd ever have to do. So I've been working 12 years, 2 months, and 24 days now. Since November 30th, 2013, for the Ukrainian people, completely as a dobrovolets person. So I went on the first days of the war. As I understand, I'm the first NATO-trained combat medic in Ukraine, because there was no other NATO foreign fighters on that first day. And there was definitely nobody that was trained by NATO to be a combat medic. And I taught thousands of people in those first years and used my own personal money to buy the medical equipment. So, because I believed in it. Anyway, it helps me sleep better at night knowing that I've done something to help people. And anybody can take a life, right? But some people that want to save lives, and to save lives you need knowledge, you need the right knowledge, and you need the right gear to do so. And it's better to be on the side of fighting for life. So
That's for sure. What in a couple of words you can describe Ukrainians so the American people will understand who they are?
Well, as my ancestors on my dad's side, they came here in the 1730s, right? We, as I touched on earlier, were humbled masses learning to breathe free. We were desiring to live without an empire, right? And I see very much the Ukrainian spirits and the American spirit to be very much the same. We have an expression in Ukrainian that say, "Якщо хата згорає, я ворог перший зустрічаю." If my house is on the edge, I'm the first to meet the enemy. How is that not like the buck stops here? The American sense of accountability. When they see something, they do something. Don't just say something, they do something about it. And I see that same spirit. I mean, like I said, I felt very much at home in Ukraine. It was very much at a neighbor or a stranger's table, very much like I would have in my own house in Missouri. And so yeah, they're very much just like us. You know, the hospitality, the strong sense of pride, the strong sense of justice, but also the generosity. It's just like home, and I think we share that. And if American people watching, if it was not for our foreign allies that helped us 250 years ago, we may not be the great nation we are today. So we owe it to pay that forward to the people who asked us. And in Iraq, there were soldiers. The third biggest contingent in 2005 was Ukrainians. Ukraine's not part of NATO, hopefully in the future. But as of that point, especially, they had no obligation to help us. But they did so because they believed in us and what America represents to the world. So much that they were willing to fight and die for us, to support us. Ukraine's not asking for us to fight and die. Ukraine is asking just to, hey, give us your old technology that you're not really using, that's collecting dust, in National Guard depots across the country, stockpiles, and modernize your military, because we're going to need you, America, as a preventive medicine. To make sure that China, Russia, and Iran, and North Korea, who are all enemies of America, don't decide to do something more and to turn this into a more global war. So we need America to be strong. Ukrainians want America to be strong. But they need help, just like we did, with training, with technology, but we don't need American boots on ground. And they want us to be accountable for that. They want to show how they are good partners to us, how they are accountable partners to us. And they want to help us learn. There's a lot of battlefield lessons learned that Ukraine can pass on to us. And just like the next big war in the world is going to teach us, to include the Ukrainians, more about war. And we owe it to our fallen who have died for our service for our nation, the United States, to learn any way we can from how to save lives and how to, quickly end the lives of bad people who want to harm us, and want to go after our freedom, want to upset the balance of the world and make the world a darker, scarier place. And I don't think that Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China have American interests at heart, but Ukrainians do. They do. So long as we were willing to help them and work with them in their time of need, and I think that Ukraine will be our best European ally when this is all done, if we just have the political will to see it through.
How do you see the role of Ukrainian people in international community, knowing, what already Ukrainians went through, and of course, the war and everything, but also in terms of maybe global security and just generally taking all of that experience in the future, what's the role for Ukrainian people, Ukraine as a country in the international community, what they can contribute? How do you see that?
Technologically speaking, so Ukraine took a project that was kind of used by Estonia, for example. It was given to Ukraine as a present. They unboxed it, modified it, made it their own, and now it's called DIA. It's a very great interface for citizens to interface with the government. It's also, I have my own DIA. It's got my digital ID, it's got my tax number, it's got my profile, a scannable QR code so people can easily see me. And I would imagine that Republicans would like the idea of getting digitalized documentation so that at the polls, American citizens can show that they are American citizens with a scannable, very hackable QR code that would allow to verify who they are, right? And also to make our peace officers more safe when they are meeting and engaging with our citizens, to show that ID, and also for our residents, our legal documented people here. So we can learn a lot from that. Ukraine's already doing that, and they might be able to help us modify that. I also see huge opportunities integrating that technology with the Veterans Association affairs. There's a lot of veterans in the United States take their lives, unfortunately. The enemy that we were fighting in the global war on terrorism in Vietnam and Korea is still killing our veterans now. When they don't feel like they get the help they need. So having that as a way to transition from the Department of War to the Department of Veterans Affairs more readily, using that technology, sending the records directly over would save a lot of time, would save a lot of money. And I think that with the great minds we have in our country, as well as working with the Ukrainians, we could make it better for both of our countries and cost a lot less and save a lot more money for the American taxpayers.
Thank you so much for supporting Ukrainian people. Maybe you have something like, wording a message to Americans or to Ukrainians. We know you're coming back to Ukraine, right?
It's my home.
It's your home right now, yes. So maybe it's something important that you think it's important to understand for American community and for Ukrainian community as well.
I'll speak first to the Americans. So my fellow Americans, I did not abandon my country. I did not abandon service. I'm continuing my service to the American people. When I rose my right hand and swore to uphold, defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the American people, I did so because I love my country. I'm willing to help the Ukrainian people for as long as I've been doing this because I know that it makes America safer, it makes America stronger, and I do it out of love, and I do it to demonstrate who we are as American people. And that we keep our promises. To the Ukrainian, часто буває, люди скажуть мені, що недобре такі людей, скажуть, що Yankee go home. А я їм скажу, кожен раз, коли мені є шанс, я йду додому в Борщагівка, чомусь я там живу. І мені не стидно так сказати, що я американець, але моє серце українці. Я вважаю, що люди тримаються, розумієте, що не завжди буде холодно, не завжди буде темно, майже весна, і цей американець скоро буде вдома, і тільки разом до перемоги. А я з тобою до кінця, до Чорної площади, коли будуть спалити москалі. Дякую.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for supporting Ukrainian people. Thank you to have this Ukrainian heart. And thank you for your service to the United States of America. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Дякую. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Marina Ovtsinova, the president of ALLATRA International Public Movement, a global risk strategy specialist who has studied in Harvard Kennedy School of Government and Harvard Law School.
Amen. Wow. Good day, dear friends. It's such a pleasure to see you all here, representative of different beliefs, different political views, different nationalities. It's such a big pleasure to stay here in front of you and deliver a very important message As a president of ALLATRA International Public Movement, we are so grateful for this opportunity to be here. And we are grateful to Pastor Burns for everything he is doing for the entire planet, for every single person, because he has unique ability. He developed very, very important initiative, spiritual diplomacy. And this initiative can go through all walls, go through borders, and can unite people of different political views, different religion, different social status, because it focuses on the very, very important and fundamental issues: freedom, human dignity, and peace.
Yes.
And thank you so much, Pastor Burns, for your dedication, your love to Ukraine, for your support to the Ukrainian people in the darkest of time. Without your support, we will not be able to be where we are. So the fight for Ukraine is going every single day, and we understand that it's not only the front line, it's everywhere. The front line for Ukraine is everywhere. Here in the Congress, in the Senate, in the churches,
Yes.
in a public meeting, because that's the fight, not only Ukrainian fight, it's our fight. Because like Pastor Burns choose the name for the conference that we hear, freedom has a name and it's called Ukraine. And that's absolutely true. So if we lose that fight, we lose the freedom in the entire world. And knowing that I will be able to talk and my voice will be heard by millions of people, I would like to say something very important. But before I proceed, I would like to say something simple and something human. So for those of you who travel here, I truly hope that your family are safe, your children can sleep peacefully. And in your neighborhood, the most disturbing sound is the sound of barking dogs. So nothing else. So that's very, very important. And unfortunately, I would like to take you out of this comfort zone deliberately, because you need to understand Ukraine. You need to feel Ukraine in order to support it. So after the Russian missile strike on the night of 18th on the Ukrainian city of Chernobyl, rescue workers pulled a woman from the rubble of the residential home. And as they were pulling her out, she was tearfully, desperately pleading with the rescue workers. And you will never guess what she was asking them. When they tried to help her, through pain and tears,
Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
she was keep saying, "Don't save me. I beg you. I just watched my son burn.
My God.
And I need to hear you this one more time. A mother being pulled from the ruins of her own home, begging the rescue not to save her life because her child was just killed before her eyes. And here what's happened next. Ukrainian mother began to share this on the social media, not for the fame, not for the political purposes, but to share the message that from now on, every night they will sleep with their kids. Not because to keep them warm, because it's extremely cold in Ukraine, but only because if the missile will strike or drone strikes their home, their body will protect their child, and they will do everything possible in order to protect their children. And that's the essence of Ukraine, protection. you need to understand that there is something that do not end with Ukrainian mothers. Protection is the nature of the Ukrainian nation. This instinct, this first desperate, beautiful instinct to protect is everywhere in Ukraine. So Ukrainian volunteers create the point of invincibility, shelter with warmth, with electricity, where everybody who needs help can come and will receive the help. And these volunteers create those shelters for the people that they don't know. They do it to protect. Ukrainian medics run towards explosion, not away from it, but towards, and they do it to protect people that are affected right now. Ukrainian teachers, they educate children in the basement, in the metro station. They do that because they understand they want to protect the future of Ukrainian nation. And Ukrainian soldiers, sons, daughters, fathers, and mothers stand on the front lines not for glory, but so that people behind them can live one more day. And they do that to protect. To protect millions of Ukraine, millions of decisions every single day, and these decisions are to protect a neighbor, a stranger, a child that they never seen before. And here, what you need to understand about the protection, and you need to hear this. Millions of Ukrainians, millions of heroes right now are protecting not just Ukraine. They are protecting freedom itself. The very idea of freedom, the precious, fragile, but infinitely valuable idea that free people have the right to choose their own future. Yes. And behind the tragedies and the pain of all Ukrainians stands not merely a terrorist state, Russia. Behind it stands a specific individual, a war criminal who has fancied himself a god, Vladimir Putin. He uses mass terror against civilians as the matter of policy, and this is his method. He kills the people of Ukraine to achieve the goals he desires. And like Pastor Burns said today, and if this method employed by tyrant who holds the nuclear launch button is rewarded, can you imagine the kind of world we will be forced to live in? The kind of world the United States would face, the world our children will inherit. That's why Ukrainians support their freedom, their fight. And that's not a charity. It is deterrence. Yes. It's a strengthening security, stability, and the resilience of democratic institutions. It is reducing the chance that American troops will face a larger war later, because dictators doesn't stop when they succeed. They stop only when we stop them. And this is exactly why today all of Ukraine organizes itself around one word: to protect. Protect their own people and the entire free world. And this is precisely why Russian propaganda works so aggressively to flip reality, claiming that Ukraine is not worth it, that Ukraine is weak, that Ukraine is hopeless. Because if you believe this propaganda, you will turn away from Ukraine. And when you turn away, what happens? Russian terror wins quietly. Through disinformation, lies, and fabricated narrative, the aggressor seeks to weaken Ukrainians' allies and partners' support. And this is why Russian information terrorism is not a secondary concern. It is another frontier of this hybrid war. Russia wages war not only with missiles, it wages war with lies. And these lies operate across Europe, across America, and to our great sorrow, even within Ukraine itself. And I know that not from hearsay. Our organization, ALLATRA, has been helping Ukraine since 2014. Our Ukrainian volunteers serve on the front lines, work in evacuation center, volunteer on humanitarian mission. They do this quietly, without advertisement, without banners, but they're there because they need to save Ukrainian people, their people. And here in the United States, ALLATRA do everything possible to help Ukraine, interacting with Congress, Senate, State Department, and of course, our scientific and human rights work is supported around the world too. But do you know which is the only country in the world that has banned ALLATRA? Can you guess? Russia. Of course, Russia. The only country where our volunteers systematically persecuted, tortured, thrown into prison. Russia. Why? Because we speak the truth about Putin's Nazi regime, because we speak the truth about the threat of the Siberian plume, which they want hide from the entire world, and because we support Ukraine. And this about that. The Kremlin considers us such a big threat that it launched full-scale persecution against us. Seeking to remove strong players from the board, Kremlin agents around the world spread lies about our organization. They call us pro-Russian sect. Absurd? Yes, it is. But unfortunately, absurdity, that is work. And because if you open the internet today, Ukrainian media, European media, you will find articles calling ALLATRA pro-Russian. The very same organization that Russia has banned and destroying, the very same organization whose volunteers sitting in jail and being subject to torture in Russian prison. And this false narrative is being spread by FSB agent. This is a documented fact. In 2024, a report presented in Washington exposed the method and tactic of Russian disinformation. It was prepared with the participants of American and international experts, as well as officials of Security Service of Ukraine and the Office of the Prosecutor General of Ukraine. The report directly named agent of Russian informational influence network in Ukraine who organized disinformation campaigns and criminal prosecution against ALLATRA. The report identifies Irina Krymenovska, a Ukrainian citizen, as an agent of Russian influence. Beyond our organization, she attempted to discredit Ukrainian religious scholars who were defending Ukrainian spiritual independence from Moscow, and to lobby pro-Russian policies into Ukrainian legislation. But she's not alone, it's a network, we need to understand that. So there is no single player. So these FSB agents have infiltrated in Ukraine institution. They influence journalists, they spread Russian disinformation throughout society. But here's what's important. Ukraine, despite all of that, is a real democracy. And in this democracy, just a few days ago, the National Police officially recognized us, ALLATRA, as the victim of illegal attempt to destroy our organization. So, yes.
Congratulations, yes.
Thank you. And you need to understand that despite such difficult times, democracy in Ukraine works. Truth breaks through. but agents of Russian influence have not stopped. They operate not only in Ukraine, but in Europe, and unfortunately here in the United States as well. And they continue to spread Kremlin's propaganda, which unfortunately you often hear in the media. That's why when you hear that Ukraine is divided, that Ukraine is losing, the Ukrainians want to surrender, or ALLATRA is the pro-Russian or pro-Putin sect, please remember that. You need to understand that what you hear is the Putin Russian propaganda. And I ask you, don't believe it. Instead, believe Ukrainian mothers who protect their children from Russian drones and Russian missiles. Believe Ukrainian volunteers who deliver medical supply under the fire, and Ukrainian field medics who perform very difficult operation under the drone attack without electricity. Believe ALLATRA volunteers who are supporting Ukraine and being tortured in the prison in the Russian Federation. Believe the Ukrainian defenders on the front lines who share effort, literally sparing no part of their bodies, their very lives, every day bravely defend our rights, yours and mine, to live in the free and civilized world where tyranny has no place. Because this is what Ukraine is: brave, free, honest. Ukraine is people held together not by fear, but by mutual support, not by propaganda, but by truth, not by hatred, but by the responsibility for one another. Ukraine is the people driven by a pure, noble instinct to protect the innocent, to protect human life, to protect the good. So, how can we stop Russian information warfare? Only with truth. We can expose it. We can forge a path to the truth by not believing the lies and by acting for Ukrainians' benefits. And we, ALLATRA, have been doing that since 2014. We do this under fire, under torture, under slander, and we will continue to do this. And we will do it around the world, here in the United States, in Europe, and in any country we go. We will fight for Ukraine's future, defend her rights, her choice, and her freedom. And here I want to return to the man who does this every day, who does so much for Ukraine and who made this very event possible. Pastor Burns, we remember your words when you came back from Ukraine and you spoke honestly and openly that before you went to Ukraine, you were thinking as the Russian propaganda gave you the information. But after you went there and you saw it with your eyes, you changed your mind. And from this point, you will never believe the propaganda that Russian authorities spread. Here also. And the very important moment that people around the world support your initiative. And they support you because you are the one who not talks, but who acts. One small step that you made is far greater than millions of hours of empty talks. And I know that Pastor Burns is a very modest person. And I would like to share something that he would never share by himself. So, you know that Pastor Burns is the only one pastor in the world that has support of representative of all religion and all denomination. And even more, the atheist also supports him. People believe in Pastor Burns because of his action, because he is doing more than he is saying. And this is very important. And every time when he starts the Spiritual Diplomacy Conference, he said, if you're here for a picture, I don't need you. That's right. And this is very, very important. So that's why people follow Pastor Burns. And like he said today, it's the action. It's not only having the pin here. So we need to act. And we really, really appreciate your support of Ukraine. It's very, very needed today. So that's why keep working, and we will support you in all the action. So today we had a lot of different speakers, and we heard different parts of Ukrainian life. And I was really touched by Pani Yulia, representative of Ukrainian Parliament. And I truly, truly believe that the sound of Ukrainian voice that you heard today, you bring home. So you will remember this melody, the melody of the spirit of freedom, dignity, and the protection. Unfortunately, right now, in order to protect their freedom and freedom of the entire world right now, Ukrainian nation paying very, very high price. They pay with the life of their children, the families, the future of the families. We need to understand that they're paying this price not for themselves, but for us, for the international order that provides your children with safety. We need to understand and remember that when Ukraine stands firm, the idea stands firm that power does not give the right to destroy your neighbor. When Ukraine holds, the principle holds that a human being matters more than the imperial ambition of one tyrant. And that is why this war is not just a war over territory. It's a war over what the world will be. A world where freedom matters, a world where the power and ambition of one tyrant decides everything. Now, dear friends, I want you to think and leave you with this. Ukraine today is fighting for all of us. And when our grandchildren will ask us, what did you do when the fate of freedom was being decided? I truly hope that the answer of each of us will be, we stood with Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine. Slava Україні.
Героям слава! Now we are asked to join us for a minute of silence to honor those who gave their lives in Ukraine for a free future for all of us. Please, 1 minute of silence. Thank you very much. Now let's proceed.
Today is an important day. Freedom has a name and it's called Ukraine. We're gathered here at the Rayburn Office Building in Washington, D.C., where people from across the country have gathered to share their support for Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. This conference is intentionally bipartisan. Why is it important for people to gather together in unity to discuss the topic of today?
Because when it comes to human life, as Pastor Mark Burns points out, it shouldn't be one party or another. It shouldn't be black or white. It shouldn't be Christian, Jews, Muslim, whatever. We all share the same values, is to save people's lives, regardless, whether it's Ukrainians, whether it's a country in Africa, Israelis, people in Europe. It's a human life. And if we truly respect ourselves, we should respect the lives of others, and they should live the way they want to live. And of course, we as a democratic country, as leaders of the democratic world, and Pastor Byrne, a leader, spiritual leader of our leader, who includes all Americans. And there should be no divisions whatsoever when it comes to those questions. We can have divisions, we can have our own opinions, and we can have our own beliefs, but when it comes to saving human life, there should be absolute unity among everyone. And Pastor Burns is a leader in leading us into such ideas.
What most inspires you about Ukraine and the Ukrainian people and their resiliency in this time?
Their fight, their ability to fight. You know, all of our intelligence agencies said they have only 3 days before the Russians will invade them and they will collapse. This is going to be 4 years that the Ukrainians are fighting and fighting hard for their freedom, and any freedom-loving people should support them in that fight. And we can see the unity. We should unite around them, rally around them. We see what happening now to Kurdish people, because for years and years they've been fighting, but they could not unite, and the world would not unite around them, and this is what happens. And brings another Holocaust. That brings another genocide. That brings another thing when we don't show unity to support people who are willing to fight for their freedom.
So the title of this conference is Freedom Has a Name and it's called Ukraine. What about that resonates with you?
Well, you know, because I'm attached to Ukraine. You know, I've been there for 10 years, even though I didn't expect to be so. I've seen the Ukrainian people struggle and fight. And I think it is an example for the rest of us how fragile freedom is. And as President Reagan said, we're only one generation away from dictatorship. We're only one generation away to lose our freedom. So every time I see and I observe Ukrainian, not just soldiers at the front fighting hard and dying and bleeding, I see the doctors and the medical workers working day and night trying to save lives. I see teachers in freezing basements continue to teach children. I see farmers, and I'm not making this up. I was there. I've seen it. When the Russians are shelling fields and the farmers continue to work, so they don't lose their crops, so they continue to feed their country. People driving a bus, working every day, simple working people, they continue to do that. So I really appreciate they're doing it because they don't want to lose that freedom, and freedom has a price.
What future do you see for Ukraine as a sovereign nation, as a sovereign people?
You know, I wouldn't be in Ukraine. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that even though this war is a bloody war, but it would make Ukraine stronger. It would make Ukraine nation stronger. The civil war made us much stronger. Our revolution made us much stronger of a country, even though it was bloody and pains. Even things like Holocaust for the Jewish people, that made them stronger, and they cherished their freedom, they cherished life. And I believe Ukrainian people paid a very, very high price for it, but they will come out as a stronger nation out of this unfortunate war.
Right now, you have the opportunity to address Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. What message would you like to send them?
I would like to wish them a success. I would like to wish them the stamina to withstand such test of time, historical test of time. I think this will go down in history as one nation that was able to survive against all odds. And I wish them to continue this. And I wish Ukrainian people to stick with us, with the Americans. to take our lead, not be fooled by a lot of propaganda which works against them.